Now, with a fascinating paradox in the housing market, because while home inventory has reached its highest level in about 5 years, buyers seem to be staying on the sidelines. So, an unusual dynamic here, sort of reshaping the real estate market across the country. Want to bring in now David Hoffman of David Hoffman Realty. Thanks for joining us, David. And really, what this means for both buyers and sellers in the Charlotte area and really across the country, because this seems to be a shift, isn't it? How'd we get here?
Yeah, absolutely. The pandemic, Jane, and thank you for having me. Inventory is at a 5-6 year high, but a lot of buyers are still priced out of the market. You know, economists thought that April was going to be one of the highest Aprils in 10 years, and actually it was the lowest April since 2009. It actually went down 2% over last year when they expected it to be up 2.7%. And the reason for that is there was a lot of inventory that has been hitting the market, like you said, which you would think would give options for buyers. The challenge is this inventory is hitting the market at pandemic pricing. So during the pandemic, when pricing was supposed to go down because it was so high in 2019, it just kept going up. And a lot of those sellers have not put their homes on the market until now. So they're trying to get 21, 22 pricing in 2025.
I see.
And rates went through the roof. And so you had low inventory during the pandemic, right? Low supply, pushed up demand. People couldn't leave their home. That pushed demand up even higher. And people couldn't sell their home because they had nowhere to go. And now you have all this inventory, but rates have tripled. And so what's happening is prices are falling. People expected that the market was going to pick up this year. We've talked about this, how prices were going to fall, and they are falling. So you take a $750,000 home right now, it probably should be about $650,000. And so the buyer during the pandemic was willing to pay $750,000 with a 2.5%, 3% rate, but at 6.5%, 7%, 7.5%, they don't have that tolerance for that high price point.
Okay, so that's what's making them hesitate then.
Yeah, it's a combination of prices not falling after the pandemic because there was no inventory to allow that to happen, and then rates tripling. And so even if someone wanted to pay the $750,000 price point, the 7% rate makes that home only worth $650,000. So you're starting to see home prices fall across the board.
So with spring, summer being that buying season, right? How does this compare then to last year, and what needs to move the scales here in either direction, whether it's for buyers or sellers?
Yeah, so not only are April sales down the lowest in 16 years, but April sales were down 0.5 point from March, when, Jane, April is supposed to be one of the hottest months of the year.
Right.
March goes to April, then May, then June. And lastly, sales are down almost 27% year over year, almost 30%. And so what's happening is many buyers are hoping that rates would fall this year. They have not. And many buyers hoped that the additional inventory would bring down pricing, but it is not. But pricing will fall down. It has to.
All right. What are you looking for a time frame?
Almost real time, Jane. So, we're in late May now. We're getting ready for the summer. And what's happening is inventory is at a 5-6 year high. A lot of those sellers have to sell. A lot of those sellers are relocating, they're downsizing. They already bought their next home. They need that equity before it's too late. And so the good news is, compared to 2009 and 10, most people have equity. The bad news is for buyers, they need those sellers to take a little bit less of it so they can afford the home. So sellers are starting to drop their prices. So I see this summer that prices will fall as inventory hits, supply will keep picking up. And the good news is buyers are on the fence ready to buy. But if rates are not going to fall, which they're not anytime soon, they need prices to come down. And most sellers will drop because A, they have to sell, and B, they have a lot of equity they can afford to sell.
And are we seeing this across the Charlotte area, the Charlotte metro, or are there some neighborhoods more than others?
Some neighborhoods are more popular, closer into the more popular areas, the shopping, the dining. Obviously, schools have a big play in all of this. But also, new construction is very popular.
Yes.
People are willing to pay a premium for new construction, and they're willing to take the high rate, A, because they can have it their way. They can build it the way they want, and they don't have to do any renovations. And B, they feel like they have 6 months to a year to hopefully not only save money and sell their home, but hopefully hope that rates will come down.
All right. If we're having someone watch that, one of those people on the fence thinking about buying a home, what should they be thinking about?
So the good news for buyers is if they don't mind getting their elbows a little dirty, rolling their sleeves up, there's a lot of sweat equity out there.
Mm-hmm.
$1 million home could be had for $850. A $500,000 home could be picked up around $400. There's a 10 to 25% potential discount on the home that has been sitting that might need a little bit of upgrades. It's in good shape, Jane. So if the buyer doesn't mind just making improvements as they go, they can get a great steal right now. And the seller has a lot of equity, so if they put pride aside, they can still sell at a premium.
Okay, and so how do you know if something is sweat equity worthy?
Yeah, so everyone should have a great broker that they trust in the market, and they should ask their broker if there's more actives or pendings. You want to see more pendings
Okay.
and actives. That's a healthy community
Okay.
when there's more under contract than on the
Oh,
market.
yeah.
But you also want to ask what prices have been doing over the last 3 years. What happened during the pandemic, all those inflated prices, those were not real. But what happened in 23, 24, those 2 years, that's what you want to watch, and you want to see if prices are lower. You want prices to be lower than there.
All right.
They're
and-
coming back down.
Oh, okay. Any other economic clarity that we need to think about?
You know, I think a lot of buyers are waiting for rates to fall, but two things. First and foremost, Powell can control the short-term rate, but not the long-term rate. And then secondly, even when he lowers the short-term rate, it doesn't have a direct correlation on the long-term rate. And last but not least, mortgage rates will not fall below 6 or even 5.5% best case until we see a real recession. And so inflation is still fairly high, but the economy is strong enough
Right.
that rates will probably fall in the next year, but nothing below 6 or 5.5 at best case.
Okay, so either you pay the high interest rate and a lower price,
Right.
or vice versa.
Yeah.
Right. David, I know you opened an office there in Cornelia, so I mean, obviously people are needing, that kind of service, and they're buying and selling and doing all the things with this Charlotte area housing market. So it seems like we're still healthy and robust in this fast-growing area.
There's a lot of people moving to the area, so I'm thinking 3-5 years. I know that we'll be back on track and we'll be stronger than ever. We just need prices to come back down more than rates.
All
Prices
right.
are more important.
In 2025, what is your outlook then? Positive?
Neutral to
Optimistic?
positive.
Neutral
Neutral to
positive.
positive.
Okay.
The good news is sellers have a lot of equity, so if a seller needs to sell, they can still sell and put a lot of money in the bank and have dry powder for the next decision. And for buyers, if they want to do it their way, they can still get a home at a lower price than the last 5 years. They're just going to have to refinance in the future.
All right, I think that's some good information for today, something to think about with a lot of people taking the day off and trying to regroup for the summer and try to figure out their plans. I see a lot of open house signs on the weekends, so people are selling. People are selling. David Hoffman from Hoffman Realty, appreciate your insight as always, and thank you for coming into the Live Impact studio again.
Thank you for having me, Jay.